What made you start your villain arc? People think grief looks like crying, like collapsing to your knees, like screaming at the sky. But the worst grief is usually much quieter than that. It looks like sitting alone in your son's bedroom at 3 in the morning staring at trophies he'll never touch again. It looks like reheating coffee 6 times because you keep forgetting to drink it. It looks like opening your phone every night to listen to old voicemails just to remember what his laugh sounded like. And sometimes, it looks like becoming the worst version of yourself because the world refused to punish the people who destroyed your child. My son Ethan was 17 years old when he died. 17. That number haunted me for years because it felt impossible that an entire human life could fit inside something so small. 17 birthdays, 17 Christmas mornings, 17 years of memories reduced to a gravestone and a cardboard box filled with belongings from the morgue. Before everything happened, Ethan was the kind of kid teachers described as quiet but kind. He loved astronomy, played guitar badly but enthusiastically, spent too much money on video games. He wasn't perfect. No teenager is, but he was good, genuinely good. The kind of boy who apologized to waiters when restaurants got busy because he felt bad making people work harder. The kind who helped elderly neighbors carry groceries without being asked. After my wife died from cancer, Ethan became my entire world. And maybe that's why what happened afterward destroyed me so completely. Because losing your only child doesn't just break your heart, it erases your future. The accusation started on a Thursday. I remember because Ethan came home from school looking pale enough to scare me immediately. He barely spoke during dinner, barely touched his food. Finally, I asked what was wrong. At first, he refused to answer. Then eventually he whispered, "Dad, people are saying I assaulted someone." I laughed instinctively, not because it was funny, because it sounded absurd. "What?" He explained everything slowly while staring at the table. A girl from school named Madison claimed Ethan had cornered her during a party and tried forcing himself on her. The accusation spread through social media within hours. By the next morning, half the town already believed it. I asked the obvious question immediately. Was there proof? No witnesses? No, then why would people believe? Then I remembered who Madison's father was. Congressman Daniel Whitmore. Local golden family. Wealthy. Powerful. Untouchable. The kind of people newspapers described as pillars of the community. Meanwhile, I was just a retired cop living in a small rented house on the edge of town. And my son? He was socially awkward, quiet, and bad at defending himself. People like Madison knew exactly who society would choose to believe. Within days, Ethan's life collapsed completely. Students started posting his picture online calling him a predator. Someone spray-painted rapist across his locker. Anonymous accounts flooded his social media with death threats. One message read, "The world would be better without you." Another said, "Do everyone a favor and kill yourself." I still remember reading those messages beside him at the kitchen table while his hands shook uncontrollably. "Dad," he whispered once, "I didn't do anything," and I believed him instantly. Not because he was my son, because I knew him. Cops spend decades learning how to recognize lies. Ethan wasn't lying. But truth stopped mattering almost immediately. That's the terrifying part about public accusations. People don't wait for evidence anymore. They wait for blood. The school suspended Ethan pending investigation. Parents demanded criminal charges despite zero proof existing. News pages started covering the story because of Madison's father. Everywhere we went, people stared, whispered, judged. And through all of it, Madison never provided a single piece of evidence. No texts. No photos, no witnesses, nothing, just accusations. But accusations were enough, because modern outrage doesn't need proof. It only needs momentum. I tried fighting back at first. I contacted lawyers, former coworkers, people I trusted, but every conversation ended the same way. "You're going against a congressman." Translation, "You're going to lose." Meanwhile, Ethan deteriorated rapidly. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, stopped leaving his room. Sometimes I'd hear him crying late at night through the bedroom wall. That sound still destroys me more than anything else. Not the funeral, not the blood, that sound. One evening I found him sitting on the bathroom floor staring at his phone while hundreds of hateful comments flooded another social media post. He looked up at me with hollow eyes and asked, "Do you think everyone would be happier if I disappeared?" I sat beside him immediately. "No," I said firmly. But even while saying it, fear wrapped around my chest, because I recognized that tone. Hopelessness has a sound once you've heard it enough. I should have done more. That thought became poison later. I should have hidden the guns better, should have forced therapy harder, should have never left him alone. But grief rewrites memory into endless self-punishment. You spend years inventing alternate timelines where the people you love survive. None of them become real. Ethan died 3 weeks after the accusation started. I found him in the garage. Even now I can't describe that moment fully. Some memories remain too sharp to touch directly. I remember dropping to my knees. I remember screaming his name. I remember trying CPR despite already knowing it was useless. And I remember noticing his phone lying nearby with dozens of unread hate messages still lighting up the screen. My son died believing the world hated him. That truth buried something alive inside me. The funeral was packed. Funny how death suddenly makes everyone compassionate. Teachers cried. Classmates cried. People who helped destroy him suddenly talked about what a tragedy it all was. I stood there shaking hands mechanically while feeling absolutely nothing anymore. Then I saw Madison, standing near the back with several friends. Laughing. Actually laughing. Not crying. Not remorseful. Laughing like she attended some boring school event she wanted to leave early. Something inside me changed permanently right then, because in that exact moment, I realized something horrifying. She didn't care. Not even a little. My son was dead, and to her, it was irrelevant. That's when the rage truly started. Not explosive rage, cold rage, focused rage, the kind that sits quietly and plans. People always imagine revenge begins dramatically. It doesn't. For me, it started with a phone call. Before retirement, I spent 23 years as a cop, and cops collect favors. Some legal, some not. There was one man in particular named Luis Vega. Gang connections, drug trafficking, violent reputation. Years earlier, I'd quietly helped his younger brother avoid prison over a stupid first offense. Luis never forgot it. I called him 3 nights after the funeral. He answered immediately. "I heard about your boy," he said quietly. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I asked, "You remember that favor?" A long pause followed. Then, "What do you need?" That moment should have terrified me. Instead, it felt relieving, because for the first time since Ethan died, I felt something besides helplessness. Purpose. At first, I wanted Madison kidnapped, hurt, terrified, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized physical pain wouldn't matter. People like her survive consequences through privilege, money, connections, protection. To truly destroy someone like Madison, you had to remove the thing protecting her. Her father, Congressman Whitmore, built his career pretending to be morally righteous while privately operating like a criminal. And Luis had access to people willing to dig where official investigators wouldn't. Within weeks, information started surfacing anonymously online. Illegal campaign donations, offshore accounts, bribes, land deals, escort payments. Evidence poured out faster than the congressman could contain it. News stations exploded. Federal investigators got involved. Then came the raids. Watching Whitmore escorted from his mansion in handcuffs felt surreal. Reporters swarmed everywhere while cameras captured his wife sobbing beside the driveway. Every asset got frozen. Every property seized. The mighty congressman collapsed publicly within months. And suddenly Madison experienced something completely unfamiliar. Consequences. But even then, it wasn't enough, because Ethan was still dead. Nothing changed that. Meanwhile, Madison started appearing online crying about harassment and public cruelty. The hypocrisy made me sick. Her family begged for sympathy while mine buried a child. So I pushed further. Rumors began spreading across town. Stories from anonymous victims, claims that Madison falsely accused multiple boys before Ethan. Some stories were true, some weren't. At that point, I honestly stopped caring. Hatred spread through the community with terrifying speed. Soon strangers recognized her everywhere. People screamed insults from cars. Teenagers vandalized shelters where her family stayed temporarily. Someone threw rocks once while she walked beside her mother downtown. I heard about it afterward from Luis. "You got what you wanted," he told me carefully. But I didn't, because revenge is addiction disguised as justice. The more pain you cause, the emptier you actually become. I just didn't realize it yet. The final moment happened 6 months after Ethan's death. Rainy evening, empty street. Madison sat beside her mother near a bus stop crying into her hands while traffic passed slowly nearby. I recognized her instantly, and suddenly every image flooded back simultaneously. Ethan smiling as a child. Ethan crying in the bathroom. Ethan hanging lifeless in the garage. Something snapped. People always ask afterward whether I planned it. The truth? I don't fully know. Maybe part of me had been driving toward that moment for months without realizing it. Maybe I decided the second I saw her. All I know is my foot pressed harder against the accelerator, and I didn't stop. The impact lasted less than a second, but guilt stretches time strangely afterward. I still remember Madison's mother screaming, Still remember shattered glass spraying across the windshield. Still remember silence afterward. Heavy, terrible silence. When police dragged me from the truck, I didn't resist, didn't speak, didn't care, because the second it happened, reality hit me harder than grief ever had. I hadn't avenged Ethan. I had simply become another person destroyed by rage. That realization arrived too late to matter. I've spent 11 years in prison now, long enough for my hair to turn white. Long enough to understand something I couldn't see back then. Pain doesn't justify becoming monstrous, no matter how righteous the anger feels. Do I regret exposing Whitmore? No, corrupt men deserve consequences. But Madison? That's different, because despite everything she did, she was still human. And the second I convinced myself otherwise, I crossed a line I can never uncross. That's the ugly truth about villain arcs. They rarely feel evil while they're happening. They feel justified, reasonable, necessary. You tell yourself you're protecting justice, defending the innocent, honoring the dead, until one day you look in the mirror and realize grief transformed you into something your loved one would have feared. Sometimes I sit awake at night imagining what Ethan would say if he saw me now. And honestly, I think he'd cry, not because I failed to avenge him, because I destroyed myself trying to.